Welcome to the Black and Gold Report. We are joined by the voice of the Ohio Bobcats, Ryan Boyd. How's it going, Ryan?
Oh, not too bad. If I could get over this little cold I have right now, I'd be doing quite well.
Yeah, you guys, hopefully you get over it because you guys have a pretty key conference game against Indiana. But before we get to that, you guys lost a couple games recently after being undefeated and fell down to number 2. So what are your thoughts on things in Ohio Bobcat land?
It's been a tough 2-week stretch of Ohio Bobcats hockey. We went on our first road trip of the season. We played 4 consecutive games on the road, 2 at Liberty, and then 2 at Illinois this past weekend. And as far as the losing was concerned, we went 2-2 during that 4-game stretch. We lost game 2 at Liberty, and that was just an absolute battle. We lost in the final minute. I think there was 1:16 left in the clock when they scored the go-ahead goal. It's a fabulous atmosphere for hockey. It was a great back-and-forth game, and they came out on top. And then I tell you what, I talked to head coach Dan Morris yesterday, in fact, and we talked about the games at Illinois, and we kind of discussed what went wrong in game number 1 as Ohio lost 5-0. And he told me that when you have 14 new players and you try to prepare a team for this new road environment playing on the big ice that Illinois has there, he says that sometimes you can over-prepare a team. And what he meant by that was that he thinks he spent too much time telling all of his young guys what to expect on all this big ice and how to play the game differently and all this stuff. And he never really gave them a chance just to go out there and play their game and play their style. So the couple of players being out, he didn't see the team perform too well there, so they lost game 1, but then they got a couple key guys back from suspension and played well in game 2, and now we're 12-2 and 0.
It's in our post-game show, our head coach Jeremy Backus over here at Oakland was reminding me that a young team here, lots of new guys, lots of freshmen. So it's one of those things where we've had some trouble scoring goals a little bit in the last few games, but the boys. And it's just, as I've said on our broadcast, it's just getting through it and guys stepping up.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know that Ohio and Oakland are great examples of teams that really just have to battle through a lot of adversity because we both pack our schedules very, very tough. We play a lot of good teams. We play a lot of teams on the road. I know that something I'm sure we'll get to later is your guys' tough stretch down there in Arizona this week. It's not easy being a new freshman player for a top-ranked ACHA team when you play as many good teams as an Oakland does or an Ohio or any of those good teams. So it definitely takes some work. It takes some forgiveness. Players don't always play up to their ability, especially in their first year, but you just got to hope that everybody kind of sticks with it, keeps battling, and then when the end of the season comes around, all those guys can be performing at their best level.
Yeah, Oakland's got Arizona State here on Thursday, and then 2 games against Arizona on Friday and Saturday. And Arizona's coached by former Grizzly head coach Sean Hogan, good friends with Jeremy Backus, and the teams met last year at the showcase with Oakland coming out. Meeting obviously out there in Tempe, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But looking around the league, Boyd, who do you think has, in terms of what team has surprised you so far with what they've done?
I think that one team that's really impressed me, and this is not necessarily to knock them, not to say that I didn't think they were going to be good. I guess I just didn't know a whole lot about this team. I think that Adrian has come out and played some really good hockey, and I know that Corey, you and all the people around Oakland hockey know more about them than I do, but they have really come out and played well. They're all the way up to number 3 in the nation, so they've been playing really good hockey. And then I've also been really impressed and this is not necessarily a surprise because I know that I told you this back at the beginning of the year, but I've been really, really impressed with the performance of Robert Morris, Illinois, here early in the year. That is a really good ball club. They have a lot of, or a really good hockey team, I should say. They have a lot of really young players, but a lot of good goal scorers, a lot of good goaltenders. They've only lost one game in regulation. Watch out for both them and Adrian, I think, moving forward.
What do you think's been the reason for all these teams that have been ranked number one getting knocked off that number one ranking and seemingly struggling a little bit after that? Why do you think that is this year?
I think that part of it, and I don't want to speak too early because there's certainly a lot of teams I haven't seen, and I can't wait to kind of see what the competition's like overall in the ACHA. But it seems to me, at least early in the year, that there's a lot of teams that are pretty similar, or there's a lot of teams that have certain strengths and certain flaws. I don't think there is any team that really stands out as being the best team, the team to beat. Like last year, for example, Penn State, even though they got knocked off, they got upset by you guys. Penn State stood out. We knew they were going to NCAA Division I hockey. We knew they had put together a really young team, but a team with Division I caliber players. We thought that they were the best. But this year, even the teams that seem to be the most talented have some kind of an issue, whether it be goaltending or defense or maybe just a lot of youth. There's always something that stands out. And I think when you have so many teams with at least one or two minor issues, you're going to see some upsets. You're going to see some teams come out and not have their best weekend every single week.
Yeah, I was watching a video online of Arizona State head coach Greg Powers after the Lindenwood series that they played, and he was talking about how the team still hasn't played their best hockey yet, and that's scary to think when you look at Arizona State sitting at 13-0. It's going to be interesting, but at the same time, I'm also looking at Robert Morris, Illinois as a team that is just continuing to get the job done, and every time they win, I think, man, Boyd told me that was going to happen, and they just keep winning. Also around the league here, one thing too was Liberty giving you guys that loss there. I know that you were watching some of that game. How does Liberty look this year?
I tell you what, Liberty looks good. I think that they're better than their current ranking would suggest. They obviously went on a tough losing streak. They lost, I believe it was 4 or even 5 games in a row, which is not something I ever would have anticipated from this team. They're solid. They have decent goaltending. I was pretty impressed by Blair Bennett. He played pretty strong between the pipes. Again, like you said, I was unfortunately not able to travel to that series. Typically I would have, but I did not go there. So I didn't see him in person. He looked pretty good. But more than their goaltending, this is a team in the Flames that can really score the puck. They have a couple of unbelievable offensive players. Rick Turner in particular, he has 36 points right now, 21 goals in 15 games. The top kind of solidify himself as a just solid day in day out defensive player, and that's Tyler Benson. I'm not one to compare with different guys in the league. I'm not going to say that he's necessarily as good as the guys that you guys have down there, because I know that you have a good defensive unit. I follow you guys real closely, but Benson is a guy that'll lay his body on the line. He'll block a lot of shots. He's a physical player, pushes guys around a lot, and he spends some time in the box for it, but he's a good defensive player, and he also can score the puck. He has 9 points so far this year, I believe 3 goals, all from the blue line, and then 6 assists. A great shot from the blue line. So he's a complete player. He does it well on the offensive and defensive end of the ice. And keep in mind, this is a guy that was an all-star a year ago for Central Oklahoma, and then he transferred out to Ohio. So it was a pretty huge pickup for us.
Looking also at, different things going on around in the ACHA here, it's been one of those situations where the new rankings that come out every week. I just want to ask you, how do you think that has changed things in terms of, because I know we talked about this a little bit before the season and early on in the season, but now that we're a couple weeks in, what do you think that's done in terms of movement?
I think it's interesting that they've moved to this, and I think that it's kind of interesting that, or to watch this every single week and see how things develop and all that stuff. One thing that hasn't surprised me at all is that there hasn't been a ton of movement every single week. There are still teams right now, for example, that quite frankly don't have great records. They're still ranked fairly high. I think one example that I'll use, just because I'm pretty familiar with this team, that Lindenwood hockey team right now is 4, 5, and 3, and they're still ranked number 10 in the nation. And that's not to say they don't have the talent to be number 10 in the nation, but when you're below 500 at this point in the year, I just feel like it's tough to put somebody that high. So I'll say this: the negative thing about it is that I feel like there's not enough movement sometimes, that they're not changing it around enough. But a positive thing about it is that I know that our fans, and I think that most fans around the nation, really like this, because every single week we can update people. It's kind of like college football or college basketball. We can say, Ohio hockey's still here. They moved up, they went down, and it's fun for fans to be able to follow that poll every single week. So I think that that's certainly a big positive of it.
I agree with you. I like it too. I mean, it makes, in my opinion, games more comes and how everything does here. But what are some teams that you think right now, being here in early November, that from the national tournament are on the bubble, that need to kind of get things in order before it's a little too late for them? What's kind of your thinking there?
One team for sure that first stands out in my mind is that Delaware team. I've not seen them play. I've done my best to try to follow them as well as I can. It's not easy when you got your team playing. It's not easy to always follow the exact breakdown of every single team, but I expected a lot more from Delaware. They came in as the number 1 team in the nation after winning the championship last year, and quite frankly, they have really, really fallen off. They lost 2 games again this past weekend to a Rhode Island team. I believe that's who they play. A good Rhode Island team too, but Delaware's fallen all the way back to 16. I anticipate that they'll fall back a little bit further. So they certainly need to turn it around and start playing better hockey. And then there's a couple other teams in there. I think I brought up Lindenwood. I'll also bring up a team like Central Oklahoma that's still below 500. Both of those teams are certainly good enough in my mind to play in the national tournament. I still think they'll make it, but I'm just interested to see when they go on their run, when they start putting together some victories so they get up above 500 again.
Navy sitting at 13 here. How long do you think they can keep that up? And do you think that they're going to be able to get into the national tournament here as one of the top seeds in terms of 1 through 10 or 13 or something like that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and for me, that's a very interesting team. You don't anticipate coming into the year, and maybe this is unfair bias on my part, or on I don't know what to call it, but I just wouldn't have anticipated that. But it's a good Liberty team, a good Navy team. Excuse me. They clearly score the puck well. It seems like in most of their games they score 5 or 6 goals, or even more. I've seen them go over 10 3 or 4 times this year. So they clearly score the puck well, and usually when they don't play or when they play teams that aren't very good, usually they put them away pretty early. I know that I've seen a couple of scores that are 12-1, 12-0. They kind of beat up on the littler guys, which is good news. I don't necessarily believe that Navy's a national contender. I think that if they played a tougher schedule, they'd find themselves losing quite a few more games, but they may have just enough to sneak in at like 17 or 18 and maybe look for an upset or something there in the first round.
All right, two more. ACHA expansion, getting some new teams in the Division One level.
I think it's great. I'm really excited about it, and Corey, you know me well. This actually hits me pretty close to home. I'm originally from Colorado. I live in Denver still when I'm not at school. So that Colorado and Colorado State edition in particular is really cool for me. I'm a guy that grew up kind of following the Colorado hockey scene, not necessarily at those two colleges, but big Avalanche fan. I played some junior hockey back there, so. Knowing that those two schools are going to be involved is big news for me. I'm hoping that I'll be able to go out there at some point and see Ohio play against those guys. And then as far as the other two teams are concerned, congratulations to them. I know that I've already talked to a couple people there and told them the same thing. And it's exciting not only for those four teams, but everybody in the ACHA Division One level should be excited to have an expansion, to know that now there's more teams, more competition. It can't be anything but good news.
And then final question here. Number 1, Arizona State. Number 7, Oakland. What's your prediction, Boyd?
Man, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a good game. I think it'll be a really close game. I'm going to say this. I'm going to keep your audience happy, and I'm going to keep my audience happy. I think Oakland gets the win. I think that Arizona State has to fall eventually. No hockey team's going to go undefeated. Doesn't matter how good they are. I'm not shooting them down. I know that they have a great hockey team, a great hockey program.
Problems on that end. But it's been a crazy year, so you never know, man.
Right. Well, yeah, good luck to you, and I hope you're right. Hopefully we do take care of business at home.
All right, we're going to let you go, Ryan, and we'll talk to you later, as that is Ryan Boyd, the voice of the Ohio Bobcats here on the Black and Gold Report.